think that also Sergio is part of a more ambitious project that I have, which is to produce films about Latin people that don't reinforce stereotypes, especially after having played Pablo Escobar. I think that this, and I found that the life of Sergio, a Brazilian like myself, and someone I was always very fascinated by the history of the UN.
Oi, Wagner.
Tudo bem? Você quer falar português comigo ou inglês?
Não, vamos falar em inglês por causa do Greg. We're going to talk in English because of Greg. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. It's a pleasure to be talking to you both. I would like to know how this collaboration came about.
Well, Wagner, I had been pursuing this story for 15 years. I'd made a documentary first, but I always saw Sergio's story as a feature film. And then Wagner and I sort of found each other. He was coming off of Narcos. He can tell the story. And we realized that we were both interested in telling the same story about Sergio Vieira de Mello, and had the first of several long conversations, initially over Skype. Wagner was in Rio, I was in Los Angeles. And it was the beginning of this intense collaboration where we explored the films we wanted to make, explored Sergio and his struggles. And I think both of us were drawn to this idea that Sergio saw the world very clearly, probably more clearly than almost anybody else of his generation, yet he didn't see himself. And became for us a film about ways of seeing, and a film about empathy towards the other and towards those closest to us. So, it was a real close partnership all the way through.
Yes. Wagner, this is like the third person, real life person that you portray. What does make this time around different?
I don't particularly like to portray real characters. This is not something that I've been chasing, but coincidentally, I've done Pablo Escobar, and then I did this film with Olivier Sayas about the Cuban spies, and of course I directed a film about Marighella. But I think that it is important to look at at characters that can inspire you, or in the other hand, it's important to look at a particular time in history where you can take an example from that. For instance, with Pablo Escobar and the drug trade, and how the birth of the drug trades, the understanding of the drug trade, the understanding that the war on drugs is a big flop. I think you can, or when we talk about Sergio, how like Greg said, this is a film about empathy, and how this was an extreme quality that Sergio had, and how this quality and in this crisis of coronavirus, for example, right now, how this crisis is how this quality is lacking in the world leaders nowadays. So I think you can always take an example from people that really existed and that left a legacy, or in a world.
Yeah, I cannot say enough. The movie it's awesome. And I want to know why Ana de Armas was perfect to play Carolina.
Greg?
I mean, she was our first choice 3 years ago when we first started. Because we'd seen her films in Spain and Latin America, and Ana, I think the reason that she's so good in this role and other films is she's very grounded as a person. She comes from very, humble background in Cuba. She has a deep sense of empathy herself, and that sort of course, she's incredibly talented as an actor. But she also this film is all about empathy, and she has that, and it just comes across on screen, and audiences connect with that.
Yeah, that's great. And Wagner, how much did you see that change Hollywood for the Brazilians, for the Latinos, for the international community? How do you see that?
I think this is getting better, and I think that also Sergio is part of a more ambitious project that I have, which is to produce films about Latin people that don't reinforce stereotypes, especially after having played Pablo Escobar. I think that this, and I found that the life of Sergio, a Brazilian like myself, and someone I was always very fascinated by the history of the UN, and of course after 2003 when Sergio was killed in Iraq, I was very much interested in this Brazilian dude that was, so important in the history of the United Nations. So. Yeah, I think this is the first step, I hope, of a more ambitious political project that would bring attention to Latin stories, not necessarily based on real characters, but where Latin actors could portray different characters that are not related specifically with what these stereotypes of Hollywood created about us.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. Muito obrigada. Muito sucesso.
Obrigado.
I cannot wait to see both your new projects coming up. Thank you.
Obrigado.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
If you like this interview, just like it, comment, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time. Bye.